All right, want to welcome everybody to the Centerville City Council meeting being held here on February 20th at City Hall. We had a nice discussion beforehand, our work session, about our recreation program in the city and the opportunities that affords many of our residents and non-residents as well too. We hope anybody that's watching this or watches later that you get your family involved in that. So let's proceed by making sure that we can conduct business by doing a roll call starting at the end with Councilwoman Meekum.
Meekum present.
Summer Hayes present.
Lehman present.
Hurst present.
Plummer present.
All five council people present. Thank you for being here. Thank you for staff that's here. Some staff are excused tonight, and thankful for anybody that's joining in person or by Zoom that are residents or non-residents. We'll start with the legislative prayer or thought from Council Member Heyman.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been thinking a lot about community and what a great community I live in. And Helen Keller once said, alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. So I encourage us together, let's do much tonight. That's
Thank
it.
you. Thank you. And if you'd all rise with me now and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now it's the open session. This is a chance for anybody to comment that's in person or on Zoom. Anything that might be on their mind. We encourage you to introduce yourself and where you're from and keep your comments to 2 to 3 minutes. We do have a couple of public hearing items. This is a utility easement with the Tyson and Daniel Creamer property and a budget amendment for fiscal year 2024. If you're going to comment on those, you'll have more opportunity to comment on those during that time where those are public hearing matters. So you don't necessarily need to comment on those if you're inclined to comment. So the open session is now open. Anybody online? Seeing nobody coming from the audience or online, we will move on from the open session. I want somebody in the back on my far left, far right, Mike Eggett, to come up front. So this is a mayor's privilege I'm taking here. So Mike Eggett was, what did we hire you as? I'm just teasing. Mike Eggett, I was on that interview board. We went through many weeks of deliberations, and we had a couple different interviews with Mike, as well as probably some phone calls. And he's our new community development director, but I'm not going to do speaking. Will you, Mike, take a chance to introduce yourself a bit to us?
Sure, yeah, Mike Eggett. I'm a resident of West Point, but I spent a lot of time growing up in Centerville on the weekends with my dad. My family is from this area. My mom and dad both went to Centerville Junior High, so I kind of have some closeness personally to the community as a result. My mom actually grew up on Pages Lane. My dad grew up in West Bountiful, but it's kind of this is my second home from that perspective. This is the fourth city that I've worked in. Previously, I worked in Riverdale for almost 11 years. Prior to that, I was in Syracuse for 3. It's same capacity in both of those cities, Community Economic Development Director. In Riverdale, I was the RDA Deputy Executive Director. And then prior to that, I worked in West Bountiful, where I cut my tooth as an intern, and then worked there for about 3-ish years as a planning and zoning administrator and code enforcement officer. So I'd say about my 18 years. And then prior to that, I worked for the state of Utah with the juvenile court system. So a lot of years of expertise in administration. Really excited to be here. I have 4 kids. I am passionate about land use and development. I'm hopeful of coming here to Centerville to help with the economic development opportunities and also to help with any RDA assistance activities I can, having some of that background, that expertise, and happy to help in all the land use stuff and the planning and zoning as well. I'm really excited to be here and I'm happy to take calls or email as necessary, if Brent will let me have those calls. But I'm happy to listen and have you communicate with me however I can help. And yeah, if you have any other questions, I think that'd be it, Mayor.
And for those of you that, up here, there's 3 or 4 of us that were on the interview board, he is ready to dig into a
Yeah.
general plan.
Oh yeah, that's one
I'm
thing
gonna say,
I meant.
Mayor, general plan,
I
general
forgot
plan,
about
general
that.
plan.
I had it.
But Lisa's gonna say subdivision goes.
Yes, I just actually went through that process in Riverdale. It was about nearly a 2-year process. Just got it approved last fall, so.
Good.
Yeah, so just barely went through that with Riverdale. And we did add the stuff that the state of Utah requires, like water use requirements and those sorts of things, housing and all that fun stuff, so. Yeah,
Fantastic.
there you go.
He gave you a chance to ask him any questions. Everybody good? Thank you, Mike. We look forward to working with you and to your reports and keeping us on our toes when it
Sounds
comes to the land use issues.
Great, thank you, Mayor and Council,
Thanks, Mike.
appreciate it.
Thanks. All right, let's go to our first business item. This first business item is a public hearing item to vacate and accept public utility easements related to the 763 North 700 East property. Lisa, are you introducing this, or?
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Yeah.
The Creamers, who live at, as you said, 763 North, 700 East, have petitioned the city to vacate a public utility easement in their rear yard. So typically, the city requires a public utility easement on 3 sides of every lot. The front yard is a 10-foot easement, and then you have to pick either 2 side yards or a side and a rear yard. And so they would like to reconstruct a swimming pool that would encroach into the public utility easement. So they would like to vacate, since you only need it on 3 sides, they'd like to vacate the public utility easement on the rear, which is the west side of their lot, and move it to the side yard on the south. Staff is in favor of this. We have to provide quite a bit of noticing, so we've sent all the notices out, our 10-day notice. We're also required to have a public hearing. And by state law, the city council is to determine whether there's good cause for the vacation and that the public interest or any person will not be materially injured by this vacation. And the Creamers have done a really good job trying to get in touch with all of the utility companies. We do have letters from the major utility companies that they actually do not have utilities in this area, and it's not likely feasible from the topography of the lot that that's where they would, they wouldn't put them there anyway. So staff recommends approval of this vacation, and there's a couple ways you can vacate the easement. What we're proposing is that it be vacated by ordinance, and then we record that ordinance at the county, and they make the appropriate changes at the county record.
As opposed to a plat of it.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
So those are the 2 ways, and historically, in the recent past, we've just done it by this ordinance, because it is provided by state law that we can do it that way. So we do recommend approval of ordinance number 2024-04, vacating the public utility easement on the rear lot line of the Creamer property. But you can have a public hearing on this, and the applicant is also here to speak to it if you'd like.
Questions for Lisa before I give the applicant a chance? Applicant Tyson, do you have anything you want to say?
No, she said it perfectly. Unfortunately.
Come on up here, you're gonna.
All right, I'm the president.
And just tell us your name for the
My
record.
name is Tyson Kramer. I'm the property owner. Unfortunately, our property does not have a single 90-degree angle on the property, and as we're reconstructing this pool, the corner reaches in and taps into that easement, and that's one of the reasons for the asking for the vacation, moving it over to the west side of our property, or I guess the south side of the property, from west to south. So just really hoping you'll do it for us and we can move our project forward. So thank you for your consideration.
Tyson, I've got one question I could have asked Lisa, but I'll ask you.
Yeah.
How many letters of consent do you have from utilities?
So right now I have Dominion, Rocky Mountain Power, Centerville City Water Sewer District. I've got secondary, who's the secondary water?
Oak Creek?
Oak Creek Irrigation, and the last one I was waiting on right now that's currently The CenturyLink, I wasn't really worried about, to be honest, because their lines are so small, and originally I was looking to just encroach on the easement rather than vacate it. But there's no lines there, they confirmed that, and it's just in their office waiting to have them produce the letter and distribute it. And so, from that standpoint, it was kind of one of those, an approval with the idea that letter's coming.
I would just mention one point in particular with this property. It is a corner lot, and so I really think it's obvious that they would use the public utility easements
Right.
on the two roads. So-
Right.
Correct.
And the major utilities, as I got those letters, actually don't even show that my backyard is an easement. It's just an easement that's recognized by the city, not by the utilities themselves. So, any other questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Tyson. All right, this is a public hearing matter, so I will now declare the public hearing open in regards to the vacate and accept the public utility easement on 763 North, 700 East, the Tyson and Danielle Creamer property. Anybody that's chooses to comment during the public hearing, please announce your name and where you're from, whether you're online or in person. Public hearing is now open.
Jennifer, will you scroll down? I think it's lot 205, is that right? Yeah, there we go.
Sorry, I saw Bryce over here trying to
No worries.
zoom in on his screen.
Power up here. I thought it was like, sorry,
Rookie mistake, Bryce.
rookie mistake.
Bryce, we're not gonna lie up here if you don't know what you're doing.
Touch screens in the budget next year.
Seeing no comments, I will close the public hearing, and we will come back to if there's any further questions of the app.
Sorry, I just had one more comment as well. It doesn't require the public hearing, but we are also accepting the new public utility easement on the west side. And so there are some conditions that we get the rest of the consent letters, confirmation and legal description by the city engineer, which I think has been done, and then get the signed public utility easement from the Creamers.
So Councilman Summer has asked Tyson if he'd gotten all those letters. Do we have to do the, make a motion subject to receiving those letters then on this?
Yes, just subject to
it's good to
receiving
have
the
on
signed consent letters from the utilities, and if you could just say it that way, there may be some wiggle room on what's considered a public utility, so we'll make that decision as staff, but we do need those letters from the major utilities.
Is that
Who are we
Utopia?
missing?
Is Utopia?
Just you, is it just?
Utopia and Comcast and,
Oh, it's Comcast.
Yeah.
yeah, Utopia and Comcast.
Yeah, I
Okay.
figured.
And Lisa, the reason I had asked the applicant that question was, back on my planning commission days, and Shaylin will appreciate this, but I can hear Mason Kerr in the back of my head saying, well, there's two ways to approach this. Have them get the letters first and then approve it so that the applicants don't feel like they walk away from a meeting feeling like they have an approval when maybe there's a utility that doesn't want to play ball, but it looks like this is not the case here, so.
Yes, and we appreciate their
Yeah, it
patience
looks
with
like they've
staff
done
as
a
well, so we
great
wanted
job.
to get this on the agenda.
Yeah, they've done a lot of work. If they've already got a lot of these letters, that's a lot of work in and of itself.
And I was gonna say, he went and got the letters earlier on, and then we had to do it slightly differently. So I guess my question is, Utopia and Comcast haven't responded up to this point. Is there a point where we just say, they're not gonna respond, and the Creamers can move forward?
Well, again, I would have to look at the statutes again, because there are definitions of public utility, and then there's a municipal utility easement. So anyway, I will review those definitions and see, but hopefully they can get those signed letters. So I'd still like the condition, and we'll take a look at that.
Okay. Are we okay to make a motion?
It sounds like it.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance number 2024-04, vacating recorded public utility easement and accepting new public utility easement for the property located at 763 North, 700 East, subject to the receipt of signed consent letters from utilities, confirmation of the legal description by the city engineer, and signed public utility easement for the new location.
I'll
Second.
second.
Move second, I think Councilman Summerhouse was first for the record.
I'll get on faster on my buzzer now.
Yeah, this is Price is Right or whatever the game shows are. Any further discussion? Okay, let's start with the vote with Councilman Meekum.
Aye.
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 So that motion passes unanimously. Thank you for our staff for your work on that. Thank you for applicant for all you've done on it as well, too. Okay, let's go to another public hearing matter. This is a fiscal year 2024 budget amendment. As we all may know, or will be learning, anytime that we have something that changes the budget we set from the past, and we will have a few a year, won't we, Nate? Those have to be approved, and they're a public hearing matter as well, too. So tell us about this one, Nate.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. As Mayor said, this is our first budget amendment of the fiscal year '24, and nothing too crazy here. It's pretty much straightforward. If you want to go to the next slide. So last time I did a budget amendment, there was a comment that someone felt like I was being shady by not showing the fund balance or the effect of each account. So that's why you're seeing the summary up front. No, it wasn't you.
Shaylene's like staring at me.
It had to be Spencer, he's the only one that's that mean.
I like to see ending balances, but I don't think I've ever accused anybody of being shady. Oh, excuse me, I've never accused Nate of being shady.
So in an effort of better transparency, I've moved the summary up front, and I will say that this is also a separate document in your packet, so if you'd like to refer to it throughout the presentation, it's there. But as we go on, I will break out. So for example, we have a use of fund balance that shows here 31,000, but there's a few different transactions or events that make up that balance. So we'll dive into each of those here in the following slide. But just wanted to make you aware that you can see the total effect on the account on these slides or on that separate document. If you want to go to the next slide. So the first one, and you'll see this a lot tonight, we have certain programs, if you will, that carry a running balance. Brant doesn't like the term roll forward, but he's not here. So roll these balances forward at the end of the fiscal year. So one of these is the emergency prep fair. It has a running balance that we roll forward year after year. At the end of fiscal year 23, that balance was $8,771. So again, at the end of last year, it got put into our fund balance because it was unspent. So now we're just asking to move that out of fund balance and give it to the emergency prep fair account so they can use that this fall. Next, we have the police department. There's a few items here. The first is the Citizens Academy. Again, a balance that gets carried on year after year, and that was $1,628. The next item is regarding the various donations to the police department. So at the end of last year, they had $7,754 of unspent donations. So we're using fund balance and then moving that, rolling that forward into this year. And then they've also received, year-to-date, $9,294 additionally. So again, we're just recognizing that revenue and then increasing their expense line so that they're able to spend it. You will see that there's the bottom line for the K-9 education and training for $1,194. This was from a citizen that started a GoFundMe after Sophie passed away and asked to be used towards the training or purchase of a new dog. So we're, to recognize that contribution, we're putting it in the education and training for the K-9. Next slide.
Nate, just back up real quick on the grant and donations. Those two revenue line items, aren't they 16,794? What am I missing there?
So you're gonna have the prior year balance, the 7,754.
I'm just looking at the increase, decrease column. So you had 7,500 in the public safety grant and 9294 in the donations.
Sorry, I lost you.
Okay.
So Spencer, if you add the 1628 plus the 7754, that's your 9382. Is that what you're asking?
I was just looking at the original sheet.
Oh, I'm not looking at the original sheet, sorry.
It all tallies, that's why I was just trying to figure out where it was. Keep on going.
Page. No, one more page.
The summary page.
The summary page, sorry.
The
Oh,
There you go.
summary page.
That's what I think Spencer's looking at, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sorry, which line are you looking at?
I was just looking at the 103363 line, the public safety grant increase of 7,500 and the police contributions 3847 of,
Oh, yeah, so the grant is not included in this, this slide that we were looking at.
okay, on
We'll hit
the
that next.
individual side, okay, okay.
Yeah, we'll hit that, on the next slide. This one. So
Okay.
we got a, grant, for the purchase of cameras. So the police department has purchased some, used cameras from the Harrisville PD and Farmington PD. They were going through a change in software, my understanding, and so they had some cameras, both body cam and dash cams that were in good shape, that we were able to buy at a great price. And again, that was reimbursed by this grant. So we're recognizing the revenue for the grant and then recognizing the expense line for the purchase of the cameras. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Nate, this is a side question, and I don't want to distract us, but since I've been on the city council, I've realized how many grants we do obtain and how great our staff is at going out and finding grant money. Is that something that we advertise, like to let our citizens know just how much we've been able to secure in grant money, that that's not coming out of our citizens' pockets?
Yeah, I don't know how much advertising we do about it. But I know our staff does work hard on it.
I mean, it's appreciated.
Yeah, obviously on the federal level, we're working with the Ferguson Group, that's helped us secure, I don't know how much, but a lot, from the federal funds. And then each department is also very good at finding, state level grants that, for example, these purchase of cameras or parks, we get grants to plant trees.
As a new council member, I just want to say thank you to staff for being so great at trying to go out and find other funds to help our city. But I would love to see sort of, not right now, but eventually on a back burner project to kind of add up to see where we've been in terms of securing grant funds. I think that's something that staff should be patting itself on the back for.
We can add that, Haley can add that to our social media.
Yeah, social media
calendar.
awareness, yeah.
I mean, maybe a once a year or once a quarter.
Yeah.
Depending on when it comes
I think
up.
that'd be great.
Great idea.
Good
And that's not
addition.
us, that's staff, right? That's you
Right.
guys doing a fantastic job for our city.
Maybe you don't want to give you more work in putting the budget together. I know it's your busy season, but maybe you can include that in one of our sessions as well, too,
Yeah, definitely.
with our total grant money.
This is Brian. Can you all hear me?
Oh, yes.
We can't hear you. You're not coming in.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm not. I do, Councilor Heyman, that's a great question. I've asked staff to look at our last 5 years and how much grants we have received to start compiling that data, whether it's local, federal, or just even foundational type grants. So we're working on that now. Police department is one who receives the bulk of some of this outside funding, so it's a time-consuming process. So it may take some time, but that's the plan, is to present a 5-year grant that we've received over the last 5 years.
I'm not trying to add more work to your guys' plates. I just think that that's it's a good thing, and I think that it's something that our community should know how hard our staff is working on behalf of our city.
That's exactly it. I think when we increase any of our rates, drainage, water, transportation, or for increasing our property taxes, I think it's important to know, to the residents to know, we are trying to find other sources. We're trying to get our money back from the federal government through these federal grants, or we're trying to, anyway, just try and get money back to here to help subsidize our cost of living and the costs that we deal with. So we are working on that, but you're right, we do need to advertise that more to let residents know that we are doing the best we can before we go to them for more money. So.
Sorry to sidetrack you, Nate.
No,
Keep going, my friend.
Thank you. All right, next slide, for the beer tax. So for you new council members, I'm not sure how familiar you are with this. The city receives funds which come from a tax that's placed on the purchase of alcohol. And it gets distributed back to the city using a formula based on the number of alcohol-related stops we have, like police stops, or the amount of alcohol that was sold in the city. Population factors into it. Anyway, we get these funds to be used towards alcohol-related enforcement. So this again has a running balance. So at the end of last fiscal year, we had $13,499 unspent. So we're proposing to pull this out of fund balance and allocate it to the expense. And then this year, in fiscal year '24, we received a little bit in addition to what we had budgeted. So we had budgeted $23,997, but we received an extra $2,621. So again, we're just recognizing that. Next slide, for community events, this is old, but we received a number of sponsorships or donations from local businesses for the 4th of July celebration. So even though these funds have already been spent, we're recognizing the revenue and recognizing the expense line. All right, moving on to the Whitaker home. The Whitaker home received a CLG grant, which reimburses the city for previous expenditures. So the way this grant works is, we talked when I gave the financials that when we get RAP tax funds, we allocate 85% to the parks, 5% to the Whitaker, and 5% to the theater. So with this grant, they use RAP tax funds to fund their projects, and then they submit it for the grant, and if we're awarded, then it reimburses us this cost. So we were just awarded $10,000. So this is essentially reimbursing the Whitaker's RAP tax funds. Okay, this one's a little bit complicated. Again, revolving around the RAP tax and the Whitaker. So if you remember back in June, the last budget amendment we had of the fiscal year, you realized that the unspent RAP tax funds, because we transfer the RAP tax to the general fund for the use of the Whitaker. Any unspent funds need to either be brought back to the RAP tax or go through the restricted cash process on our financials. So we felt like it was easier to bring back any unspent RAP tax funds and move it back to the RAP tax. But then council expressed a desire for these funds to remain available for the Whitaker. So the funds that the Whitaker did not spend out of RAP tax last year was $15,057. So again, last year we moved that out of the general fund back to the RAP tax fund. So now we're, at council's request, proposing that we transfer this back to the general fund to give to the Whitaker to be able to use. Does that make sense? Okay. Again, here's the summary again, but that is our budget amendment. Are there any questions?
Questions? Okay, this, we'll see if anybody comes up, Nate, but stay up here if they do have any after our public hearing. So this is a public hearing matter, so it's, I will now open the public hearing to these budget amendments that just have been proposed to us for fiscal year 2024. Nobody online? Seeing no comments for the public hearing, I will close the public hearing, and we will open it up to if there's any other questions for Nate. If not, the motion on these budget amendments. This is resolution 2024-08.
I move that we approve resolution 2024-08, amending the fiscal year 2024 budget.
Second.
Motion is second. Further discussion? Let's start with the vote with Councilman Summerhays going to the right.
Aye.
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 Motion passed unanimously 5-0. So Nate, a little warm-up for you for all you got to do over the next 2 weeks.
There you go.
Right?
We'll get it
Thank
done.
you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, let's go to item number 3 on our business items. This is a fee schedule amendment related to street and excavation permit fees. Lisa?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. We're proposing a new fee for public utility easement vacations. We recently, we made some amendments to our fee schedule and we added in street vacations, and I thought we had put in the easement vacation fee, but when this last application came in, I could not find the fee. So we are now adding it. Our street vacation fee is $500. It really should be $1,000, but a public utility easement, I mean, we spend as much as $500 on these. We have to review them, we have to review the title report, we have to review the plat, we have to prepare the ordinance, then the city engineer reviews the legal description. We have to track down all of the noticing and send those notices out. So anyway, we're proposing, though, a $300 application fee for these types of requests. And you'll see in the resolution that there's two different types of utility easement vacation requests. One is the public utility easement, which I've mentioned, are the major utilities, power, gas, electric and telephone, which is what is stated in the statute, as well as telegraph. But then they also added a new municipal easement, and typically these are, so sometimes the city, we will require what we call a standalone easement for our own water line, because we don't want to share it. So sometimes we have our own municipal water line easements, and so I just put a fee, a line for both of those types of easement vacation requests. And this does not require a public hearing. Like I said, I thought it was a fee we already had in our fee schedule, so we're just recommending to add a fee for utility easement vacation requests for $300 plus professional service fees.
Okay, so that's how, that was my question, is $300 didn't seem to get there, but
Right.
if we
So we
plus
can,
those
yes.
professional services, then it's more transparent then.
Right, so they would pay for, under
The city
professional
engineer
services, they
review.
would pay for that, yes, review of the legal description. Again, usually the legal description is if we're adding a new one, but we also, typically, the county wants a meets and bounds, so that legal description has to be created, because typically it's just on the plat. So then we have to do a meets and bounds in order to vacate it. So,
And you feel
And
like
then
$300 off is commensurate with?
well, in
has to-
comparison with our street vacation, because street vacations are even more difficult, because you have to do the whole title research to see how we obtained it, whether we own it fee simple or if
Yeah.
fee determinable, and how, whether it goes to the adjacent owners or whether we can purchase or sell it. I did want to make a comment, though. If, sometimes we get utility easement vacation requests in conjunction with a plat amendment, and we would likely not charge these additional fees if they're already paying that fee for the whole plat. This is if they're going through the ordinance vacation procedure, or if they do it outside the plat amendment process.
How often do these things come up?
Surprisingly, we've had quite a few, and I mean, maybe 6 a year, 6 to 10. You know, not quite every month, but they do come up quite a bit.
This is similar to what Creamer's just did.
Yes.
Okay, so do you feel like, I mean, you probably don't know exactly what the professional services were for the Creamers, but you feel like 500 is a good starting point for?
No, it's
Well,
a three.
it's only 300.
But
But what
about
I'm saying is
no,
we
I'm talking
could-
about the $500 deposit. What,
Yeah, yes.
so they're paying 300 plus they're paying
A de-
500, and then whatever that, they have to pay the actual cost of that. So it's
That's
really 800. Okay. Okay.
So are we billing or sending like a reimbursement billing to applicants for those professional service charges if they exceed the $500? And are we reimbursing them if it's under $100? How does that work? Like practically?
Yes, we should be refunding it if we don't use it. That's the way our code reads, and we are to bill them the actual cost. I can't speak to that side of the fee collection, though.
You just do your work, you let the finance people bill your time or the other person's time?
But we can double check on that, and we've had some conversations as staff about looking at our fees, and, yeah.
I've just seen in other municipalities that I've developed in my personal life, there's pretty large deposits, like, almost like an escrow account that's set up and then it's drawn against for those services. And that's a broader discussion, not here, but for council's reference for future discussion, that is not atypical for municipalities to require an escrow deposit that is drawn down on and then required to be replenished as needed.
But it is the 300 for the fee plus the 500.
Yes, the 500 is a professional services deposit.
Yeah.
They have to pay both of those.
What qualifies for a professional services? I'm assuming if Kevin spends time on it, that is the engineering
I
portion
would
of
think
professional services. But when you say
legal
legal
fees,
fees, are we talking about your time as well?
The city used to bill, when the city had a private law firm, and they would bill, they divide that fee in half, and the city would pay 50% of the legal fees in terms of reviewing development applications or something like this. But we no longer charge that fee. So mainly the professional services fee goes to engineering fees.
Okay.
And that's what I was getting at. Should it be 500 and 500, not 300 and 500? I just want to make sure that our base fee for staff's time is really commensurate with,
How much time it takes.
Well, and I
Correct.
think that's why I
Yeah.
was asking that question, was if the
I mean,
legal fees.
you've made the recommendation for 300, but did you sheepishly make that recommendation, or
Yes, to
like,
make it in
put
line.
yourself in the private world? Does that really compensate you if you were a private legal counsel?
No, I think we spend more than $300 in staff
Okay.
time on.
But she's saying that we only charge 500 for the street, and that's way more work, so we can't really charge as much for this as we do the street where it.
Or
Yes,
we
thank you.
make this one what it costs and we bump up the other one to be
Yes.
commensurate with what it
That,
is.
that's where I'm leaning
Yeah.
towards.
I have to
Well, why
look at it
don't-
the same way.
We could look into it. I'd probably recommend you adopt this as is and then let us go and, you know,
Okay.
make those
Can staff
determinations.
take that under advisement for us?
I mean, I guess you could do this one as 500 because I will say, yes, it's at least that much. And
And that's why I'd rather, I agree with Shaylin, I'd rather get this one right while we're doing it and talking about it, and then have you come back and give us an update on the street vacation.
So Nate, how are we on billing the difference or refunding the difference? I mean, since the question's coming up, get an answer.
Yeah, no, this was a conversation I had with Corey shortly before he left, that we should be doing this, and it hasn't been done for quite a while. And now our cost, I mean, a lot of those, I can't remember which fee we were looking at, but there's a $250 deposit for one of our development fees. And we should be billing the excess because our costs now exceed that. But we haven't been since I've been here.
But are
So-
people paying the extra cost? I guess from my perspective, I would rather put whatever it is, like, around what the reasonable amount is that we expect. I'd rather refund money, a little bit of refund money, than to have to try to go out and collect money that people may or may not pay.
Yeah, so I don't know what the costs are. We're waiting for Mr. Eggett to get on board here before we. That one, so-
He's feverishly writing notes as we're
Welcome, Mike.
talking.
It's the poor guy's first day. He's like,
Yeah.
oh, man.
His first day, he's running out of this meeting.
I can see he and Whitney chatting.
But yeah, we have had internal conversations with staff that, recognizing that we're probably not doing this correctly and we need to figure out a process to do that.
Yeah, so again, for reference for the council, my personal experience for my professional life is I'm getting reimbursement receipts from municipalities billing me for down to the 10th of an hour for professional services with an escrow account. Now, that is the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, which is a little archaic, but that's my personal experience. And I think from a fiduciary standpoint, as a council member, I just want to make sure that we're billing commensurately to the public, not overbilling, and that we are not also eating costs and not passing on those realistic and actual costs to developers or applicants.
We shouldn't be subsidizing.
Correct.
Right, and that's where I think we're saying it would be helpful to do a more comprehensive study of all of our, for instance, just take all of our development fees and start there, and then take all of our streets and, do a more comprehensive.
And do you
review.
feel like the 300 covers this, or do you feel like we do need to go to the 500? I mean, it seems like a big jump to me to go from 300 to 500.
Lisa said that does not even get close to her.
Well, I mean, they're
time.
paying
If she
their,
was
but
in-
they're
if she
paying the
was-
professional fees beyond this, and this
Yeah,
shouldn't,
true. That's true. If you add in the.
But it's not covering her time. That $300 for Lisa's time? Yeah, I was gonna say, Shaylin?
I'm sorry, but you should see the legal market right now. 300 is nothing.
Is cheap. Look, Robin, like, that's what I'm getting at, is like, Lisa's time is more valuable than $300 to review this. And that's what I'm saying, when I say Lisa's time, it's city staff time, and it's not $300. Like, $500 is a bargain, to be honest. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, the
In terms of
300
market
would-
comparables.
Would take care of 3 hours for me.
and is that about what you would think it would be? It'd be about 3 hours?
Yeah.
So
So-
she's saying it is covering her time.
Lisa, you are way underbilling yourself.
Thank you.
Now, wait a
Thank
minute,
you,
wait a
Shaylin.
minute, she's
That's
gonna
how
be
I
in here
feel.
for a raise now, careful.
So my question then comes up are, well, let's finish up this one. And,
I'm
Well, I'd say,
make a motion
Okay.
to approve this resolution, but changing the amount to $500. That's how I would make a motion if I'm allowed to make a motion.
You
How long
are.
would it take to put a comprehensive report for the fee schedule by the staff?
well, since we're entering budget season and we're still trying to get the subdivision ordinance up to speed, I mean, I think we could put this on our radar for this year. That's kind of what, in terms of workload, I think. But it is a priority because I think our development fees are low and we need to, and costs are more. I mean, even with, staff time and things like that, so.
So Councilman Plummer, that's what I was gonna bring up. I hate to delay on this one to get a comprehensive report back on all of them though. You know,
I'm
let's
definitely
act on
glad to
this
go
one
with
and
the
get that report
300.
back.
I mean, if Lisa really feels like it needs to be 500, if not, I'd rather have it looked at a little bit and maybe look at what our cities on our other sides of us are doing. I mean, like I said, it's a big jump from 300 to 500, even if we went from 400.
I'm very comfortable with 500. I know what this legal market is like. I think that Lisa is underbilling herself.
Well, but we're talking about a city employee versus billing fees, which are slightly different. We're not trying to make money on this. We're
Yeah.
trying to cover her direct costs.
And we're not cover over.
Fair.
Yeah, but I am also
still-
very comfortable with $500. I think that
Correct.
that is probably more accurate.
Well, and what I'm saying too, as well in the staff report, it's not just my time, but these applications go through community development.
Right.
So they take the applications, they review, then it comes to me and I do that, and then it goes to the engineer and he does that, and then it goes back to community development for all of the noticing that has to go out. So there's quite a bit of,
That's why I'm saying I think 500 is probably a little more accurate to what it's really costing because you are running it through community services too.
yeah, and we can, put a ballpark of, try to get a review of these in the next 6 months. I think that's reasonable. I think it is a priority.
Was that the motion?
No, I'll go ahead and make a
You're
mo-
allowed to make a motion. You are-
I know.
You are a council
but-
member.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I'm just trying to be diplomatic about it. I'll make a recommendation that we approve resolution number 2024-07, amending section 17.010 of the Centerville fee schedule regarding street and excavation permit fees to add a fee for requests to vacate a municipal or public utility easement with the amendment that the fees shall be $500 for the public utility easement vacation request as well as $500 for the municipal easement vacation request.
I'll second.
A motion is second. Do we have further discussion or amendment to that motion? Further discussion?
I thought you made a recommendation.
Did I make a recommendation?
You said,
I thought was-
you
Sorry.
did say recommend.
Sorry, I've probably read recommendation as I said. I made a motion to
Okay.
approve resolution. If I said recommendation, I missed
I
it.
have to admit, I was like, well,
Thank
that's
you
a
so
new one.
much. Yeah,
That's
that's
a
a
new
new
one. I'm not sure what that
You
means.
haven't been on council long with me, so I'll make all sorts of mistakes. I'll own up to all of them.
I don't hear further discussion or any, so let's vote. Councilwoman
Amen.
Hayman.
Aye.
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 That motion passes unanimously. All right. I think we're done with all the vacation ones. It's making me want to go on a vacation.
It's all good. It's, hey, I didn't make a motion to open public hearings this time. I'm improving over time. 2 years into my term, maybe I'll get it right, but I doubt it.
Okay, thank you, everybody, and thank you, Lisa, for your work on that. Okay, let's go to item number 4. This is a simple one, hopefully. Amend the city council boards and committees appointment list. If you remember in January, we did a city council appointment, and it's there in your packet. And then last meeting, we approved Councilwoman Meekum to be on the audit committee. And and it came back to us that it's a good idea to get us on this list, because that's why I missed it originally, because we didn't have it on the list. Am I getting it? Is that fair enough?
Yes, this is called a clean up, fix it resolution.
Yeah, thank you. And you'll notice on there, audit committee, Councilmember Robin Meekum, I am not there, or the mayor is not there, because that is in our city code that the mayor will be on it. So it's not an appointment, correct? So I am, or the mayor is part of the audit committee as well too. It's just that it's not an appointment, okay? So we're just cleaning it up and, as Lisa said, and adding it to this, our city council appointment sheet.
Thanks
appointment
to
list.
Nate, our finance director, for pointing that out as well.
Okay, thank you, Nate, for doing that. Anything else on that one? Okay,
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 2024-09, amending the city council appointments to districts, boards, and committees to add a council member appointment to the audit committee.
Second.
motion is second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? I think I got it right, I could do an aye on that one. Okay, let's go to our summary action calendar. This is just one, it's a Dual Creek piping project. And you have that in your packet. If you want some addressing of it, Mike, do you want to talk about this one at all? You're back there, we want to keep you awake, buddy. So,
I guess I'd just ask you guys have any questions on it. This is for a box culvert going up 4 South. The bottom line, the wetlands credit is in lieu of being able to go up to transfer funds, basically. The county's ready to start, and so as soon as we get this paid, the county can start putting the box culvert in, starting on down by Young Power Sports and working up the road, so. This will be, eventually you finish up the whole thing, it's gonna be a couple-year project to wrap it up.
Okay, so that was my question, is based on the drawings, it looked like it was, I thought it was a 2-year project based on what you'd said before, and then looking at the drawings, I thought, oh, they're gonna do everything in 2024.
So, yeah, I mean, it depends, they've got some hurdles to get through down there on the lower part, the power line's kinda in the way, and they gotta figure out how to be able to bring a crane in to set it, so our company's giving them a little bit of fits and stuff, but, yeah, I mean, eventually, they'll get all the way up, this will take care of all that,
Okay.
so.
Okay.
We'll be able just to continue to move forward.
you guys good? Okay, did we need a motion on this one?
I move that we approve invoice to RP Wetlands and Waterfowl LLC in the amount of $60,800 for Dual Creek piping project.
Second.
Motion is second. Further discussion? Okay, let's go to roll call vote, starting with Councilwoman Hurst.
Aye.
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 That motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, let's go to minutes review and approval from February 6th work session, February 6th city council, and February 6th closed session minutes. Is there anything that any of you noticed that you would like to change on that?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as outlined in the agenda.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the minutes. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that passed unanimously. Okay, monthly financial report. This is January 2024. As you recall, Nate went over in detail with this December's because that was the end of a quarter. This one is not the end of a quarter, but if there's any questions on it, so he will not be reporting. If there's any questions on it, though, he is here to ask them on what you have in your packet, or answer them, excuse me, you're asking them. So any questions on the financial report at all for the end of January? Okay, if not, thank you, Nate, for pulling those together. Okay, let's go to the council report. Our council report tonight is from Councilmember Meekum.
So with Utopia, they're still doing quite well. The board is pushing that hopefully we could get a little bit bigger. It's not really a refund, but pay back what we're paying to them and get a little bit of that back. But it is kind of interesting. The average from 2022 to 2023, the average monthly reoccurring subscriber revenue increased by 6.2%. Some of these numbers are, but here in Centerville, I think we've just got over the 50% take rate. Bountiful is doing well. They're going to own their own infrastructure, but as the people come on, that's going to help. Idaho Falls is really bringing in a good revenue for them. There's not much change other than that. They're working on Bozeman. They had to actually cut back what they were paying us for a while because the year before in the winter, the ground froze. They couldn't get it in like they thought they could. So it's a little bit slower coming back, but hopefully we'll make the money up on the other end. So they seem to be doing better than they were. So if you have any questions. We're still not doing anything with our landmark yet, so.
Thanks for that report. Any questions? Anything that anybody else has to report that's pressing with your committees?
I'm assuming you're going to discuss LPC.
I am. And so, and you're going to help me on that. And if Lisa's been listening, she can as well too. Okay, thank you, Councilmember Meekum. Let's go to the mayor's report, okay? Councilmember Hurst referenced one of the things I was going to talk about. Do you have that item I asked you? If you can read that, okay? This happened today. Our meeting was today, okay? This is something that they gave us homework on that I wanted your input on. This is House Bill 572. This is kind of the summary. This is something that came out of the governor's office, a proposal to improve our housing market by giving people loans from the PTIF fund, the Treasurers, what is that? What's that stand for? Public Treasurers Investment Fund. They're right there at the top, okay? So this bill would create Utah Homes Investment Program Oversight Council. It would authorize the state treasurer to invest up to $300 million of state funds as deposits to lenders for qualified projects. A qualified project is a housing proposal with 60% sold at first home levels, affordability, and there's a bunch of housing bills out there, affordability, all kind of take a dartboard and throw the dart at it. They're going to try and get that uniform. All right, a qualified project also is owner occupancy requirements for 5 years, a maximum of 75% of overall qualified project financing. And then the financing is treasurer offers loan at a rate no higher than 1.5% above federal funds effective rate at time of investment. Repayment with an interest at a rate equal to greater of federal funds effective rate minus 2% and 0.5%, the earlier of 24 months loan repayment or sale of last qualified project house, okay? So they gave us homework, this and one other bill, but I don't know if I'm gonna get into that, but this one in particular, I wanted any input, and you can email me with your inputs as well too if you don't have any right now. One thing I would throw out there is this is something outside the realm of what the treasurer's office can invest in. It's outside their portfolio, what they can invest in, and that hasn't been fixed yet. So can this happen? I mean, they would have to adjust what the treasurer can invest in, okay? One of my questions was, I have a big time, because I've had personal experience with this, is how they're going to track the owner occupancy requirements for 5 years. They're going to do it potentially by saying that it's on the deed, right? And then do we as cities, or are we the ones responsible for that, or what? I mean, so thoughts on this? Any thoughts right now?
I think it's important to mention too on that owner occupancy requirement of 5 years, that's the minimum. My concern is 5 years may not be long enough. Like, it maybe should be more like 10, but cities can make that be part of their, like they did bring that up, that 5 years is a minimum.
My two thoughts, I don't know what 5A, I'm not sure what that means. An interest rate equal to the greater of Fed funds minus 2% and 0.5%?
Yeah, as I was reading that,
I don't know what that grammatically, like, what does that mean in English? Really?
So I don't know what that means, but this bill came about, the governor's office has an employee that's working there. I don't remember what his title is. He's the one that presented on this today.
Is it Steve
the
Waldron?
guy you got.
Yes.
Yeah, it's Steve.
Yep. And he talked
We present like
about-
every week. That's why I brought this one up.
So what he mentioned a couple of weeks ago in the LPC was that currently the private sector, for developers to go in and get an interest rate, it's 12 to 15%. And the biggest issue right now is they cannot get money. Banks are not loaning as much for developments. So that what they're trying to do is buy down the interest rate essentially to a more reasonable rate so that they can have a better chance of selling.
They're doing
them.
this for developers?
Yeah, this is for developers.
Or any
But they
home
have to,
builder?
they have to sell 60% of the homes at a certain rate, what they view as an affordable rate. And frankly, there's 3 different bills that are being looked at right now. One is the one the mayor said he didn't want to go over. The other one is Representative Ward's.
Well, you can touch
bill.
on it if you want. I'm just,
Well, before we leave here,
But one of
Yeah.
one of the key points is each of those bills has a different definition of what affordable housing is.
correct.
And they did ask for some input today, and I was curious as to what you guys all thought. One of the definitions, and I now can't remember which went with which bill, but one of them was, is it, like the salary of the person? Or is it the median price of a home in that area? And I sent some feedback in that I think it should be somewhat based on salary because, I mean,
That's what
housing has
affordability is
gone
a measure of.
absolutely out of control.
Yeah.
I think our parents paid 2 times their annual income for a home. We probably paid closer to 3 times. I think it's more like 5 times now. So in my mind, I'm going, can we get a tool working where, I mean, who can afford 5 times their annual income?
So my thoughts are, number one, I think 60% is too low of a bar. If
Okay,
you're trying to achieve goals of affordability, you should have, and you're giving, and maybe that's the offset because the developer has to, obviously, they're not gonna do a project, which means that we're not gonna get any of these affordable products if you don't allow them to maybe have some higher, margin, homes. But I wonder if 60% is too low. as a hurdle
Okay.
in terms of the affordability. And I agree with you that if you're talking about affordability, it shouldn't be based off of price of homes. Affordability, when it comes down to our daily lives, is how much do I make and how much can I make on a payment?
Yeah.
So to
Right.
me, it makes more sense to put it as a measure.
Okay.
Like a percentage of what that income level is. So is it 30%? You know, there's a 30% rule on a mortgage.
Yes.
Is it 30% of that demographic
Yeah.
salary? To me, that seems more practical if you're trying to achieve those goals.
Well, and that kind of aligns with that whole 3 times your income or whatever, you know, that's just another way of looking
And
at it.
I think we could pay more in our generation because we weren't paying as high interest rates as
Right.
maybe some of our predecessors.
Mm-hmm.
That definitely plays into it. I'm
I think so, too.
curious as to, you know, they finance it at 150 bips over the Fed funds rate, but the repayment is less. That's why I'm confused by 5A, so.
I agree with you, and I'm wondering if so some of this stuff is, they like are putting this together so quickly.
Yeah, that's what Steve, when I talked to Steve for like a half hour.
Yeah.
He's reported on this
Couple
bill
weeks ago.
3 of the last 4 weeks.
The governor appointed him to the position, he walked into
In
it.
December.
Yes.
The day that the governor sent out that letter, and he's like, oh, I haven't even had a chance to review this. So
Right.
he's,
He
He's worked
frankly
on
has
this a
done
lot
a
in
really
his-
impressive job in my mind.
well, he
But
came from
he's-
this background. He was doing affordable housing. There's a project that he's helping, like a public-private
Okay.
deal in his former life. So he's familiar with this. But those would be my input.
Any other inputs, council members, for?
No, my-
Because they tasked us to do our homework, and we're gonna go back and, tomorrow probably.
Well, my question
Take our
was,
thoughts
going
back
back to Ward's, when he was saying that it had to be below, now I'm losing my thought.
The median
The
price
median,
home, I
yeah.
think is
But
what
so I
his-
want to know, how do they decide that? Because
They were
is it by
talking today
size? Is it by
by-
homes in the area? Is it by homes in North Salt Lake?
By
If-
county. They said today it'll probably be by, it's too hard to track it by city.
Ward's got through committee?
No.
Okay.
No. And they're
was like, I don't
opposed,
even know.
the Utah League is opposed to that one.
Okay,
But those are the three that
they
are
said
still kind
today
of floating
it's-
around.
It's in committee.
okay.
Yeah.
So it's probably not gonna get out.
That's what I mean, he admitted as much, but.
Yeah.
On the owner occupancy requirement for 5 years, so just to make sure that I'm understanding that correctly, so if I'm a builder and I sell that to somebody and there's an owner occupancy requirement, I have to personally stay there for 5 years? I can't sell my house, I can't.
Right.
No.
No.
No,
It has to-
it has to be sold.
It can't go into a rental pool.
Yes,
So
yes.
Blackstone can't come in with
Fair.
a,
Right.
Then I would definitely.
$200 billion
I would
fund.
definitely bump that up a lot.
My concern is that you've got these huge companies coming in and buying up rental units, and they're causing some of the demand problems, right?
Right.
And
And the
so-
high rents, because it's
So
all,
I'm not in love with 5 years. 5 years will be gone, and then we'll be
Right.
back in the same
It's nothing to them.
situation. I think it should be more like 10.
I do too, I agree with you.
I was thinking
Especially
15.
because this will be, they even brought this up in the meeting, it will be a little bit of like cheaper housing. I mean, it's not gonna, to keep it in that range of median home price, it won't be top dollar construction probably.
But what would be the harm in bumping it up to 15 years? The people that we're trying to target are not people that are gonna flip their houses and try to sell them
I
to
think if you're
market out.
encouraging ownership,
Like,
you were
make
talking
it-
about
make it
ownership. You're like,
high,
I
yeah.
almost, you hate to say deed restricted into perpetuity, but 5 years is, to me.
5 years is a
If you're
lot.
encouraging ownership, to me, it's ownership where you're gonna raise a family, et cetera. And so is it even longer than 15 years?
I
Is
mean,
it 20 years or
maybe.
25?
Maybe so.
Again, I don't think that people are not gonna buy a house, because they're like, oh, I'm not gonna be able to sell this to Blackstone Group. I think people are gonna buy it regardless, and I think it keeps it in the hands of people that it's intended to.
Correct, especially when, as it passes through, yeah.
Thank you for your input. So you brought this up before I move off of LPC. What else did you get from the meeting today that?
The
you wanna try?
the other thing, and I don't have the House bill, and now I can't remember what it was. I thought for sure I wouldn't forget, but there are some some things to do with data that cities are gathering. Lisa, if
House Bill 491.
okay, something about privacy issues and people's personal data getting out. Cities tend to keep things forever, but there is some concern about that. I don't know enough about that or what we're doing to understand it, but I would think that probably Jennifer and Lisa ought to look into it if you're not aware.
They asked maybe get our IT people, or I think you guys would be good to look at as well.
He
too.
was covering it so fast, and I don't think he was flipping the slide, and the slides aren't available yet, but I bet they'll be up tomorrow.
And we are trying to not collect as much of that data in the
Yes.
first place.
Yeah.
So, yes, we've been trying to make that effort in the forms that we're creating and things like that. We're much more mindful of what we're creating and
Okay. Yeah, that's,
collecting.
that's the other thing. There was another housing option, that had to do with 30 units per acre overall, but it could be more dense in the middle where there's multi-use zoning, and then as you go out to the outer edges of it, 8 units per acre. Just so you're aware, they haven't spent as much time on that one, so I'm not as familiar with that bill. We were getting it fast today. They are dumping a ton of information right now because the bills will move fast this week.
So stay alert because they have 3 days left this week and 5 days left next week. And last Monday will be our last LPC meeting. So it's like they say, there'll be, I think bills that haven't made it out of committee are probably not going to make it out of committee by now. So the ones that have numbers are on the floor, they're going to move fast and furious on them. So thank you for your input on that one. I will take that back, and we will keep you abreast of any that you need to call or text our representatives on. Any further questions on that? Okay, just 2 other things. I met with the chairs for a 4th of July committee, the Inkleys, along with 2 of our staff members, Haley and Bryce, and had a nice meeting a week ago Friday as far as moving ahead with that, and they're getting things in place with their chairs over their various committees and boards and that sort of thing. We do have it's on the calendar as far as our fireworks is concerned for that night. I talked with the fire department and they're good that night as well too. So you'll be getting more of that as the Inkleys work through with the chairs that they have. And then I want to remind you, 2 weeks from now, our council meeting will not be on the Tuesday night. It is on the Wednesday night because of the caucus meetings. Okay, so a council meeting will be on Wednesday, March 6th instead of Tuesday, March 5th. Any other questions for me? Okay, thank you. Do we have any type of report from the city manager department? Nothing?
Not that I'm aware of,
Okay.
unless there's a voice from above.
Nothing to report other than, be watchful of the bills coming up. There's a few other bills that are concerning, but I'll have more information later on those.
Okay. Thank you. We do not have a closed session item for tonight, and so I guess I would look to ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, aye?